Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am Castlekeeper Bloodworth, and as you can see by the graphics, today I'm going to be taking a look at the history of Yggsburgh campaign setting, and this is the history of the setting itself, not how it was created or anything like that. So I really wanted to focus on this because I think it really does explain to the players how, like, what kind of a mindset they should have in beginning this campaign. That it really is a real in-depth, I think, look at the way Gary Gygax really intended for this campaign setting to be reflected in the campaigns that you would run in it, and it really is an interesting read. And so, for that purpose, I am going to go into it and and actually go through that history, which is not very long. So it's only about a page and a quarter of writing. So I am going to go through the whole thing and give you the opportunity to actually see it, and then I will be a little bit more reflective on it afterwards. I also want to show you the map of the region that comes along with this particular book. This was recently put out or reissued by Trollord Games, and I've spoken a number of times about this in the previous videos leading up to it. So you can always go back and take a look there as well. But let me start off with the map first, because that'll be very quick, and then go right into the actual text. So here we go to the map. So here we have I just scrolled way out. So here we have the map that we're talking about. So this is Yggsburgh, and particularly the East Mark section and the East Mark. And here is the city down here itself. I'm hoping that you can actually see my icon over it. So here is the city itself, marked with a number 1. You can see it very clearly here, Yggsburgh. And the history is going to be talking about two very specific regions of it. So the city itself, or it's actually a walled town, a very large town, about 20,000. So I'm not quite sure if that falls under a city or just a very large town. And then it also mentions the Glittering Knob. All right, so or knobs. So you see these wooded hills, and they play a very significant role. And then you have the rivers Nemo, and this also combines with Meadow Creek and the Cold Spring Run, and they all come together, flowing into each other, and form the River Nemo continuing over here, and it all cycles around Yggsburgh, which makes it a really important trade hub because of access to the rivers, and then the roads as well flow through there. The map, of course, is by Darlene. I mean, you do not get any, in my mind, and this might be nostalgia talking, but I mean, she's an absolute legend. All right, in role playing in general, tabletop role playing games, but for anything even related to Dungeons and Dragons or later on Castles and Crusades. I mean, this is just absolutely phenomenal stuff, and it just goes to show you how the legacy of old TSR through Gary Gygax, through Darlene, and through some others. James Ward worked on several aspects of Castles and Crusades as well. So you just get some phenomenal legends of the hobby being represented in Castles and Crusades and through these other projects moving forward. So it really is impressive. Let me get back to the screen. So now I'm going to go and take a look at the text itself. So here we have it. This is from Castle Zadig, Yggsburgh. The town of Yggsburgh is about 300 years old, but up until around 100 years ago, it was no more than a large trading village with low walls and a lot of river traffic stopping at it to gain its salt and agricultural produce. When gold and valuable garnet and quartz gems were discovered in what is now known as the Glittering Knobs a century ago, there was an immediate dispute amongst three nobles whose lands were adjacent to the area. Huon, which is Baron Redford, or Redford, yes, Delcart, which is Count Eastmore, and Edmund, which is the Marquis Tolworth. As there was no strong monarch ruling them, the dispute between the nobles soon broke into open warfare. When Marquis Tolworth managed to capture the area, he set his architect and engineers to work immediately. Soon Yggsburgh was aswarm with masons, other craftsmen, and laborers intent on building walls and towers around the burgeoning village. With the aid of various mages, the whole construction, including a considerable canal between the Urt and Nemu rivers, serving as both a transport artery and vast moat for the new town, was accomplished in a mere 5 years. Costs were financed by the salt mine and the Serpent Ridge, and with ore and gems being mined from the Glittering Knobs. Neither of Tolworth's rivals was satisfied with the outcome, so Baron Redford and Count Eastmore made common cause. Thus allied, their forces met and defeated those of the Marquis in what is known locally as the Battle of the Westfields. However, the victory did not bring the desired result. A local petty noble, Edward, Lord Yggs, to whom the village and salt mine had belonged, with a handful of knights cut down the foreign garrison, closed the gates, and defied the would-be conquerors. Because the local populace were heartily fed up with heavy-handed rule and ruinous taxes, those in the community as well as those from the land around flocked to their town in arms and swore vassalage to Lord Yggs, promising to defend it, him and his lands. Even so, there were scarcely enough warriors to man all the walls and towers properly. The massed forces of Baron Redford and Count Eastmore laid siege to Yggsburgh. Things looked grim for Lord Yggs, as the investing army managed to get across the canal and the Urt River, establishing bridgeheads near the town walls, and attacked both the moat gate and the river gate by siege engines and magical spell. Although no spellcaster of note were within the walls, the attackers were driven back by great dwemmers. Some unknown wizard had come to Yggsburgh, used his power to counter the assailants' magic, and used his own spells to rain destruction on the enemy. Having suffered great losses thus, the two nobles abandoned the field. So it came to pass that the town was ruled by Lord Yggs for some 20 years. And under his guiding hand, it grew and became wealthy from trade and manufacture, as well as exploitation of nearby mineral resources. As it prospered, he caused a great temple to be built in thanks for the deliverance and flourishing conditions of the town and lands around. When Lord Yggs died, childless, his officers and knights were astonished at the contents of his will. Lewis Garmond, Lord Yggs, commanded that his estates be kept as their own by those holding the lands, and that the town became a free one, the nobles owing vassalage to the community at large and its Lord Mayor. His will decreed that a council of 8 great men of community serve to make laws and elect for a period of 10 years one other like man, who was not a council member, to serve as Lord Mayor and administer the town. At least 6 council members had to agree to the one to be chosen as Lord Mayor. The Lord Mayor was to see to the maintenance, policy, and security of Yggsburgh, enforce the council's laws, and levy taxes approved by the council. The 8 members of the council had been named by the dying lord as the chief priest of the Grand Temple to serve as president, the masters of the 2 largest town guilds, its wealthiest banker as the treasurer, the most able mage in the town, the president of Yggsburgh's College as its secretary, and 2 knights who dwelled in the town and held the largest estates adjacent to town-held land. Of course, the citizens of the town and its surrounding areas were overjoyed at this bequest. Not all of the officers and knights of the deceased lord were so pleased, though. There was much muttering and clandestine meetings among the 24 or so highly influential persons in Yggsburgh, but all came to naught in regards to the declaration of Lord Lewis Garmond's last will and testament as invalid. The most powerful figures decided that being a permanent council member was better than risking a many-sided fight for rulership of a town, for surely those who elected its Lord Mayor held the real reins of power. So the will of the last Lord Yggs was carried out, and Yggsburgh and its adjacent lands are free, ruled by an elected Lord Mayor, this condition existing for over 90 years. It need not be stressed that the council is so divided amongst power and interest groups that it is rarely acts in unity, so the Lord Mayor is quite secure in his 10-year office tenure as long as he performs reasonably well and avoids open graft and corruption. It is disturbing to the ruling elite of the town that the property-owning burghers have recently proposed an elected assembly to assist the Lord Mayor and Council through advice and consent for matters pertaining to the common folk. All property owners would vote, and the 25 candidates for the assembly receiving the most votes would be seated therein. Neither the Lord Mayor nor the councillor has espoused the suggestion, and the property owners are becoming insistent. There is talk of withholding taxes and forming a citizens' league with sergeants at arms to keep order. And then I'll get into the world at large later on, but just starting off with the brief history, and I'm going to switch views here. Just starting off with that brief history, you can really start to see the elements that you can take advantage of as a castle keeper, and how to integrate a party of adventurers into this. I mean, they could be representatives of or employ of the town itself, of the Lord Mayor, to further search around and look for these conspiracies, or these these the potential for uprisings and such. They could be hired by one of the other two factions, the other two lords that were originally trying to fight for control of Yggsburgh. They could be part of this new faction that is rising up to represent the the peasantry and the normal the commoners, and the newly formed assembly of these individuals as well. So what I really like about this history of Yggsburgh is that it is not the result of some earth-shattering event taking place, right? There's no grand scale war that's going on. It's very localized and very believable that in a feudal type society without a major king, that these petty nobles would be struggling for power and such. And it really is devoid of with the exception of the few times where they mentioned magic spells being used during the siege. It's really devoid of any extra extras like supernatural influence on it. So it really does get you down into the mindset of, well, this is a setting where the characters are coming from a fairly believable kind of background and interaction with the overall community. If they do start out in the city itself, and you don't have to think, well, this is going to be about any kind of earth-shattering events. It's going to lend itself to being a very believable setting. That these are just adventurers working through political intrigues on a more local level. And to me, that's really interesting, because it's something that breaks away from like the norm of what many of us are probably used to running. Whether it had been in our Dungeons and Dragons campaigns, or our Castles and Crusades campaigns that were previous to this and everything. So I'm really looking forward to actually going into this setting and actually running a Castles and Crusades campaign in this setting. Just taking the whole thing and just going forward with what it really does set up, and getting my players, all of whom are coming from my AD&D first edition campaign of over 2 years. And so they're all coming into this. And then I have a new player or two also joining in this group. And to have them start off in a campaign setting that is going to be very, very different in tone and in ramifications than our previous Greyhawk campaign with AD&D First Edition. I'm really excited about it. I think that they're going to really enjoy it. And once I get into the sections on culture and such, it really does start to show the way that Gary Gygax thought about campaign settings. And when I had said in a previous video, I think that Gary Gygax's world building and settings, lore and such, was actually his strong suit. That's where he really truly shines in his writing, more so than his rules writing, and more so than even his adventure modules. His characters, such as like Gord the Thief, was an interesting character, but it was the world building that went on in those stories that was really next level stuff. I mean, and so even from his adventure modules as well, it's not so much the adventure itself and the mechanics of an adventure as it's going forward. As it goes through those various aspects of adventure writing, it was always about the lore behind the adventure that really stood out and shine for or shown for the for the product itself. And so that I really see in these pages here. It is just another really phenomenal thing to have the opportunity now to get my hands on it, because it has been approved by the Gygax estate to be reissued, and there's more coming. There's at least there's at least four more books, I believe. There was a total of 5 original books put out in this series, and then Trollord Games is actually preparing to kickstart the reprinting of Gary Gygax's The Hermit, which is an adventure module, and I'm hoping that actually ties in to the Castle Zagig campaign setting in a significant way. So, or it'll probably be very easily to transport it into this. So, while I was reading the sections on this book and in the early parts of it, they were saying that they were talking about the map area, and the map area is actually, I believe it's about 1,500 square miles, and it would be very easy to drop the this setting into your pre-existing world that you're using, whether it's Greyhawk or Aired for Castles and Crusades and everything. That it is a small enough region that you can certainly drop it into into your world, but it's a large enough region, and if I went to the map and went back over to this map again, I will switch over to here. There's enough going on in this map. Here you can see the whole thing now. There's enough going on in this area that if you were doing a West Marches, like Hex Crawl, you could literally spend months, if not years, going through all of this region here and still not leave the Eastmark area of Yggsburgh. So that is another thing that I think is really important to consider. You can still get this at Trollord Games. So on their website, you can still purchase this. It's like $60. It is by far one of the best setting books that I have purchased in a long time, and I'm comparing it to like the old TSR setting books as well. It's a really strong, and I'm looking forward to continue to dig into this even further and to share share my thoughts on it as I go through. And then I'm hoping to actually start my new campaign in about 2 weeks, so that my group, we're wrapping up our AD&D First Edition campaign tonight, and then we're going to go on a hiatus from that, and within 2 weeks, I'm hoping to start up the campaign for this, moving forward, and then I'll intermix that with some other gaming, and give one of my players the opportunity to do some game mastery himself. And I get to be a player in that group, and I'm looking forward to that too. He'll be running Traveler, so really excited about that. But I'm really excited about shifting over to Castles and Crusades as primary my primary game system, and now that Castle's Ajig and the Yggsburgh campaign setting is now in my hands, and future books will be coming out, I'm looking to make that shift from Greyhawk to this as well. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please consider to like and subscribe, and to share. Make sure you comment. I love comments. If you as well have just recently gotten this and you're starting to dig through it, please let me know what you're thinking about it. I know the OGGM, who is one of the players that I'm going to be launching this new campaign with. He already has his character that I was running very sporadically. He's just going to transplant that character over to this setting. Or he might just choose to make his own character. But I know he just got this in the mail as well. And so he can, he's already doing some videos talking about the book, although I don't think he started doing his own review of the actual contents of it. But I encourage him to certainly do that, and to pop over here and to leave some comments in the comments section as well. And then once I start running this in 2 weeks' time, hopefully the OGGM will come along with me, and we can do some session recaps as well as any of my other players as well. They're always welcome to come in and do session recaps. So without further ado, let's wrap this one up. And thanks for joining. Hope you like this video. And I look forward to seeing you on a gaming screen or at a table sometime soon. And just keep on rolling your dice and having fun. And remember to share your own gaming experiences, either on this channel or on your own. I'd be happy to watch any videos that you're producing as well. So you have a great day, and take care.